この街は嫌いだ。忘れたい思い出が染みついた場所だから。
96% of the world's population currently resides in the country they were born in. Statistically, the majority of people stay close to home, and it shouldn't be a surprise. But have you ever thought why that is? It's easy to point out to practical reasons like language, habit, or just not having the opportunity to go elsewhere. But more often than not, in my opinion, it's not the deciding factor. What I think matters the most individually is emotional attachment. People stay where their connections are, friends, family, lovers, what may have you. And so if most people are content enough to stay, why do we still have some who can even grow to hate the place they grew up in? Whether that's an entire country or just a small town. It's almost never because of the physical location itself, it's just the same force as to why people stay. The connections, the ties. For some, a hometown can become a container filled with memories you want to forget, people you don't want to face, and little to no reason to stay. And at the beginning of Clannad, Tomoyou is one of those people. Tomoyou is a stranger in his own home. After a dispute with his father that leaves him injured and forces him to quit basketball, the one thing that gave him direction, he starts drifting through life. He becomes a quote-unquote delinquent, detached from his present days and completely indifferent to his future. But by the end of the series, something changes. He isn't just drifting through life anymore. He wants to build a life with Nagisa. He wants their child to grow up in that same town. So what changed for him? I don't think it's just the love for Nagisa. It's all of the ties that he forms throughout the series. His hometown won't be defined by regrets anymore, but by the people who ground him. People he doesn't want to leave. And ultimately, I think we can call those people family. That's what Clannad is really about to me. Every major arc in the series revolves around family in some form. The title itself means family, kinda. Family isn't just blood. It can be adoptive, it can be found, and it can mean a lot of things. Support, conflict, loss, reconciliation, rivalry. And as humans, we also have the faculty of deciding to start one from scratch. And Clannad explores every one of those meanings and more throughout its story. So allow me to show you how and why it does it so well. Starting from the very first major narrative arc. Although it takes about 5 episodes to really get into, it is the story of Ibuki Fuko, a seemingly strange freshman who is rumored to be a ghost, giving out cursed objects, no JJK, and in the loosest sense of the term, she kind of is a ghost, as we'll learn that she's the manifestation of the comatose younger sister of Ibuki-sensei, a former teacher at the school. I am not here to retell the whole arc, and I won't be doing that for any other arc that I mentioned in this video, as my content isn't meant to be a substitute for actually watching the show. So really, it doesn't matter what exactly happened down to the most minute details, but what matters here is what this story represents. Fuko's arc explores a very painful but very real aspect of family, the fear of being a burden, of feeling like your existence rather than being grounding in a positive way chains the possibilities of those you love, all the while you're still wishing for their happiness above all else. In her desire to make her sister happy, Fuko works tirelessly day and night carving starfish and handing them out to students to ensure they attend their sister's wedding. Students who don't even know said teacher because of the fact she quit over 3 years ago. Everything she does is driven by the one desire of seeing her sister live happily, even if she can't be there by her side. And in the end, even without ever directly interacting with her, Fuko teaches Ibuki-sensei something important, that she's still allowed to pursue happiness even in spite of her sister's condition, because that's what Fuko would want. The next arc shifts to a different but just as heavy of a topic pertaining to family. This arc is about Ichinose Kotomi, a teen genius who is also emotionally frozen in time. After her parents died in a plane crash when she was a child, her life stopped moving forward. She isolated herself, buried herself in studies, became obsessed with any traces her parents left behind, finding every single mention of them and filling her own room with it. This is due to the fact that in a moment of grief as a child, she thought she destroyed the only copy left of their most important research, and that she somehow needed to atone for that quote-unquote sin. And in the end, what frees Kotomi isn't more knowledge or redemption through academic achievements. It's the realization that even in their final moments, her parents weren't thinking about research, they were thinking about her. And now that she has people around her to rely on again, a found family, she can finally move forward. The final scene of the arc is so incredibly powerful that I would urge you to go and rewatch it. But again, this is just another example of Clannad knocking it out the park, keeping the central theme of family while looking at it through different perspectives and situations. And even though we're nowhere near done here, so don't go away, this is the one takeaway I want you to have from this video. Clannad was never trying to tell a story about romance alone. It's there obviously, and in the visual novel it's even more pronounced simply because there's more content, but at its heart, this story has always been about family and its many different meanings. This is why I think it's reductive or outright wrong to call the first season of Clannad solely set up to what comes next. The show has already shown to you what the theme of it all is. It just hasn't gone to focus on Tomoyou really. Over the years I've heard an honestly worryingly high amount of people say they didn't enjoy Clannad for this exact reason. Because the structure of the show isn't like your usual end of season 1 they almost confess, never gets a season 2 kind of romance. But as I've been trying to show you, that was just never the intended experience the show was trying to provide. If you're looking for a classic romantic drama, the 2 special episodes with the 2 other routes are probably what you're looking for, but Nagisa's route is the true one because the drama surrounding it isn't just about 2 people falling in love and not being able to be together because of force majeure. It's about the family that surrounds them. On Tomoyou's side, it is finally being able to leave his unhappy home situation and finding warmth with the Furukawas. Nagisa's side is a bit more complicated. In the final arc of season 1, she learns that her parents once shared the same passion that she now holds. They were passionate and talented theater actors, but they eventually let that dream go. After nearly losing Nagisa as a child, they chose her as their sole priority over everything else. Nagisa feels responsible, like her sole birth had taken away their happiness. But what she eventually understands is crucial. Her parents do not regret their choice. They didn't sacrifice their dreams because they were forced to. They did it because they wanted to. Because to them, raising her is their happiness. And that's the first season of Clannad. First season of nothing, am I right? Let's move on to After Story, which also has a few, albeit smaller, character arcs about family. Yukina and the 2 rival gangs and how they basically become a big family surrounding her who was helpful to both sides, and Sunohara simply trying to be a good older brother. But the obvious stars of the show are Tomoya and Nagisa and everything that surrounds the start of their own family. Their marriage, the pregnancy, and everything that comes after. After graduation and Nagisa having to stay back a year due to her health, Tomoya is pushed headfirst into adulthood. He finds work, starts living on his own, and begins building a future where Nagisa can one day live with him. Everything seems to be moving forward until the past pulls him right back. He's told that his father had been arrested, and small town rumors spread fast enough that Tomoya ends up losing a promotion at work simply because of who's related to. Remember what I said at the beginning about how connections can be grounding or confining? His connection to his father is, to him, a curse. One to always interfere with his happiness as long as things stayed that way. And his solution now is the same as it always was, to run. He did it once already, moving in with the Furukawas without talking it out with his father. That was him running from the problem. Can't really blame him for it at age 17, but it still was running. And now he feels like he'd have to go much farther away for this connection to be severed. He even proposes that he and Nagisa leave the city entirely, start over somewhere else. But Nagisa doesn't see it that way. She doesn't see the town the same way he does. She tells him that leaving isn't wrong, but running away is. That if they leave, it should be because they're moving towards something, not because they're trying to escape. Because even if Tomoya right now can only see the pain here, for her, this town holds the people and the moments that shaped her, Tomoya himself being one of them. A little pause, but this moment right here was the one that made me realize I was actually going somewhere with this script, that I wasn't reading way too much into the show. But let's keep going. Even after visiting his father in jail with Nagisa, after being painfully reminded that this part of his life just won't go away, after storming off from the police station, in spite of it all, he asks Nagisa to marry him and she accepts. It's not a grand gesture with him getting on one knee like we've been taught, but it's raw and meaningful. And I find it the most romantic scene in the entire show. One thing I really want to highlight in the episodes following the extremely dense episode 12, which covered all we talked about in the last 2 minutes or so, is Tomoya's adverse reaction to change. It shows up in a few moments, but the clearest one is this. The place where Akio once prayed for Nagisa's life, just an open field back then, now has a hospital being built upon it. And Tomoya hates it. It feels wrong to him, like the town is slowly erasing what it used to mean. He, the guy who keeps saying he hates this town, clearly has places here that matter to him. But while Tomoya thinks he's attached to the physical place itself, Akio understands something that he just doesn't get yet. It's not the physical location, it's not the town that holds the value, it's how we carry the memories tied to it. Akio has already come to terms with that. He tells him that things change, nothing can stay the same, and that's simply what it means to live. He's learned how to keep the meaning of things without needing them to stay frozen in time. This moment foreshadows how Tomoya, even after his growth and independence, definitely wasn't yet mature enough to face the great loss that was about to fall upon him. To him, change still feels like some sort of betrayal. And if a person is that adverse to change, even for just places of his town, you know it's not going to be a good time when someone he loves passes away. After Nagisa's sudden death due to childbirth, Tomoya didn't just lose his wife, he lost direction again. The way the first scene of this new Tomoya mirrors the first scene of the show is kinda genius. He is back to how he was going into his senior year, detached, aimless, but this time there's no Nagisa to give color to his world, and for 5 years he drifts about in life. Not just abandoning himself, but his daughter too. The memory of Nagisa, too painful and debilitating for him to pick himself back up. But eventually, through a not so quiet push from Sanae, he's forced into something that he's been avoiding, spending real time alone with his daughter for the first time. A simple trip, just the two of them. And it's there that he's confronted with two things from past and present that ironically mirror each other. The relationship with his father and Tomoya's own role as a father. In a lot of aspects, he's become a reflection of him. A man who also lost the love of his life when he was young. A man who also turned to alcohol and escapism, but with one very big difference. His father never abandoned him. He did his best, breaking himself down completely for the sake of raising him to the best of his own abilities. Tomoya can't even say that about himself at this point in time, but learning about this at the age of 25 reframes everything he's ever thought about his own father. With his flaws and many failures, he was a present father that did his best, and he finally is grateful for that. At the same time, his daughter, Ushio, confronts him with something even more painful to learn. For years, Tomoya had believed that the one thing he needed to protect had been taken away from him with Nagisa's death. That everything that was grounding him to this place was taken away from him. But even through her early shyness, Ushio shows him that she had been waiting for him this entire time, waiting for him to realize that what Tomoya had to protect was just there all along, the very product of the love that him and Nagisa shared. Their daughter, Ushio. And in my opinion, this is where the emotional work of the story basically ends. Sure, we have the return of Fuko, which is great to see, but everything is a lot more lighter in nature, where we kinda just see Tomoya readjusting to being a present father. We all know how it ends after, and the Deus Ex Machina that gets us to a best timeline situation, but my job is done here. In the end, Tomoya's journey was never about the town itself. It was about the memories, the regrets, and the hardships that made him want to run. But after everything he's been through, he realizes that there's no place he'd rather be, because the people who matter, the ones who ground them, are here, and this time he wants to stay for good. Clannad is not your average romance show. I'd hardly call it one to begin with, because it's just so much more than that. Thanks for watching.